I wanted to make this video to help prepare you for project number 2. Project number 2 is about edifying you on the different interest charges that can be computed for different types of loans, irrespective of the interest rate. That is, 2 different loans can charge you the same interest rate, but the actual burden that you bear, the actual amount of interest that you pay, will change, may be different. Now, the APR, the annual percentage rate, is the rate that tells you precisely what the cost of the loan will be. Now, I'm going to go into that a little bit more in just a few seconds, but I realized that I needed to make this video because in grading your first project, I was surprised at how few of you, relatively few of you, actually use the mathematical functions in Excel, adding and subtracting. Instead of using the mathematical functions in Excel, you probably use, a calculator. And there were a lot of calculations to make, and some of you made mistakes here and there. In project 2, you can't use a calculator. I mean, you could, but you'll have thousands and thousands of calculations to make. And along the way somewhere, you're bound to make a mistake. So I want to show you how to set up this spreadsheet and how to use the mathematical functions. Don't be put off by the fact that you need to learn some mathematical functions. Don't be anxious. They're easy to learn, and it's only multiplying, dividing, subtracting, and adding. That's all it is. There's no calculus or even any algebra. And once you learn how to do it, once you get the hang of it, you'll see that it's a lot of fun, and you'll go looking for things to put on the Excel spreadsheet. Now, you'll want to have a very good facility with Excel throughout your entire financial life. There are lots of different canned financial software applications out there that you can purchase, but there's only one that is exactly right for you. And that is the one that you create. And this is the software, Excel. This is the software on which to create it. So I want you to learn Excel, and you're going to need to learn Excel for project number 2. Now we're going to get into project number 2 in just a second. But let me explain to you what project number 2 is about. Project number 2 is going to require you to compute the monthly installment payments on 2 loans with the same principal and the same interest rate. One loan will be something we will call a declining balance loan, and the other loan will be an add-on loan. And what you will see is that even though the principal and the quoted interest rate, the interest rate that the loan officer quotes you, 10%, 8%, whatever it is, will be the same, the interest charges will be different. So you want to make sure that you know what kind of loan you're getting, so you'll be prepared for the interest charges that you will have to bear. Now, ultimately, it is a requirement by the Truth in Lending Law of 1969 that the lender must apprise you of the APR. The APR will tell you what the actual interest rate is. It may or may not be equal to the quoted rate. Now, for a declining balance loan and for a single payment loan, the quoted rate and the APR will be equal. And that is because the interest charges are based upon the unpaid balance. However, with an add-on installment loan and a discount loan, the actual interest rate that you pay, the APR, the annual interest rate, that's an official technical term, the APR, will be greater than the quoted rate. And so you will not only be computing the monthly installment payments for both the declining balance loan and the add-on loan, you will also be computing the APR for both loans. And you're going to need an Excel spreadsheet with the mathematical functions in order to do it. So let's go to the an Excel spreadsheet here. And here somewhere, we'll just put it here. We will create the spreadsheet that you will need to submit. Okay, make a cup of coffee. So in this cell here, you see these little squares. In this cell here, we'll put the principal. That's how much you borrow. By the way, look at the way I spell principal. Principal. That's the amount you borrow. That's the amount you invest. That's the financial term, principal. Now, technically, it means the main thing, like the principal of a school is the main guy. The principal, Principal, is the amount you invest or the amount you borrow. Principle, that is the fundamentals, the basic, like the principles of economics, the principles of finance, the principles of math. They sound the same, but they're spelled different. So here we're going to take out some loan. Now you will be required in Project 2 to specify some loan amount that you borrow. You may wish to use the last 4 digits of your social security number, or you may wish to make something up. I know it doesn't really matter. So let's make one up. Let's say 9876. 9876. Now this is going to be a 4-digit amount. Less than $10,000, but greater than $1,000. Now, if you want to use your social security number, and if your social security number last 4 digits start with 0, you know, the amount will be too low. So replace the 0 with a 9. Now, in addition to the principal, what we're going to need to know is what will be the interest rate. So we'll just put rate here. The interest rate. Let's say the interest rate is 8%. So the way we will enter that, of course, is 0.08 as a decimal. That's 8%. And the number of years, it'll be for 2 years. Years will be 2. Okay, easy enough so far, right? Now, what we will want to know, what you will be required to do, is to determine the value of the monthly payments. That's the value of the monthly payments. Let me put that as payments. Let me increase this, the width of this column right here. I just come up here and drag that to the left right there. Okay. Let me go ahead and format these numbers here. So I'll click on that. I'll click on that cell right there, and I will right click. I will right click on that cell, and that will give me a list of options right here. I want to go down here to format cell. Format cell, and there are the number of ways I can format that cell. Let's say that this is currency. We'll call that currency. And for this, we don't really need any decimal places for this. So we'll have 0 decimal places. We do like the $ there, and we do like the comma. So we'll go down here to OK. Now with this 0.08, we want to express that as a percentage. So let me right click on that, right click, and come down here to format cell. And here we will put a percentage. Now on this right here, we will put 2 decimal places. So you see it automatically multiplies it by 100 and puts the percentage sign in the back of it to indicate that indeed it has been multiplied by 100. That is, the decimal point has been moved to the right 2 places. Okay. So there, and we don't need to do anything to 2. You know, that's fine. Now let's go down here and build our table. All right. Now in the first column here, we will want to identify the period number, or we'll call it month. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, the month. Now, there are going to be 2 years, so there will be 24 months. So watch carefully. I could go down here and enter 1, then 2, then 3, and do that 24 times. But watch what you can do with Excel. Here, the first month, we'll put 1 for the first month. Now, we want a 2 for the second month. So we're not going to enter the 2, we're going to enter a formula. That will take that 1 there and add 1 to it. You'll see why we do it in just a second. So here's the way we enter a formula. Here's the way we let Excel know we're entering a formula. We put the equal sign. Excel says, aha, that's the formula. So then I want to take that value right there, 1, which is in E11, and to that I want to add, I put a plus sign there, to that I want to add 1. Enter, and you can see that's 2. You say, well, why the heck didn't you do all that? Why didn't you just enter 2? Here's the reason. I'm going to copy that 2 all the way down for 24 spaces or whatever it is. So I won't have to do 3, 4, 5. I just enter 1 formula, boom, I have it. I'll show you in just a second. But let me show you what this formula is saying. You can see up here in this window right here, what is in this cell. It looks like a 2, but here's what the way Excel is reading it. E11 plus 1. Now, here's something that's very important to understand. Excel isn't actually reading E11.1 plus 1. It's reading go up 1 cell and add 1 to it. E11 doesn't mean anything to Excel right now. All this says is go up 1 cell, take that value, and add 1 to it. Now, let me copy this cell to this cell. Now, what do you think I'm going to get? Here, I'm going to right-click, and then I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to put it in the cell. Let me move the cursor to this cell. I'll left-click into that cell, and then I'll right-click and paste. Look, it gets 3. Now, why is that? Because I copied in cell E13, I copied what was in E12. And what was in E12? Here's what was in E12. Go up 1 and add 1 to it. So when I copied that to E13, E13 says now go up 1 and add 1 to it. See that E12? Excel isn't reading that E12. It's reading go up 1 and add 1 to it. And so I can copy this all the way down, a whole bunch of things. Now what I'm doing, let me go slow down here. I'm going to copy, right click, copy what's in that cell, which says go up 1 and add 1 to it. And then I'm going to go down here, left click in there, hold the left button down, and drag that all the way down here. Highlight all of those cells right there. Oh, then I will hit enter, boom. Okay, once you get that, you can go really fast. Now I did way past 24. Let me erase these down here. So here's what I will do. I will highlight these once again, left click and highlight these. Right click and say clear content. Clear content. So there, I got from 1 to 24, and I didn't have to enter 1, 2, 3, 16, 18, whatever it was. It's very, very easy. And you can do this very, very quickly, you know, once you get a little bit of practice and once you get the hang of it. In our next column, we will want the payment. The payment. This is going to be our installment payment, our monthly payment. The installment payment that we make. Now, you know, an installment loan is one where you have a given amount of fixed payments at regular intervals. $200 a month for the next 5 years, $500 a month for the next 2 years, whatever, that's an installment payment. Your car loan is an installment payment. Your mortgage is an installment payment. Your credit card, though, that's an open-ended credit. Pay on that what you can. You can borrow without having to reapply, and you pay on it what you are able to pay on it. You don't have a standard monthly payment to make. You don't have to pay it off over a given period of time. So a credit card is open-ended payment. So is a line of credit, where they say, okay, we'll lend you $10,000. Now, most of it stays in the bank and you just take it out as you need it. That's generally what happens when you're building a house or something like that. When you yourself are building it, you take only money out when you need it and pay it back when you can. So this is an installment loan. So what we have to do now is say, okay, what will be the installment payments on this loan? We're going to pay off the principal and interest of this $9,876 loan over 2 years. What will be the payments? Well, I have no idea. So I'm just going to enter a dummy number here. Let me just enter 999. Okay, that's a pretty good dummy number. Now, to make it pretty, and so I'll know what that 999 is, let me format the cell here. So I'll right click on that. I'll format the cell and I'll pick currency here. And in this particular case, we will have 2 decimal points because we want to be pretty accurate. So this will be our monthly payment. Now, what do? Do I put 99999? No way. Because every time I adjust this, I want all of these payments to adjust. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Now, the way in which we would do this is not use the copy command. We will use the equal command. So we will say the value of this cell here, F11, is equal to the value of this cell. So I'll click on that, enter. Okay. Now, I want all of these payments right here. I want all of these payments to be the same. It's an installment loan. So all of these payments are going to be the same. So then what do? If I go here, if I copy this to here, watch what happens. Copy this to there. What happened? Oh, here's what happened. Pay very close attention. When I entered the formula into that cell, it told Excel to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 and grab the value in that cell and bring it here. Now, when I copied this cell to that cell, this cell now has the instructions. This cell now has the instructions go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and grab that and enter that here. Well, what we want to do is to have this thing go up to cell F7. In other words, we want Excel to read F7. We don't want it to go up, say, up 4. We want it to read F7. Now, this is known as an absolute reference. When you go up 4 or up 11 or whatever it is, that's known as a relative reference, and Excel assumes a relative reference. However, you can make this an absolute reference by doing the following. You want Excel to read F7, not up 4. So here is what you do. you would take this formula right here and you would edit it. And the way you tell Excel to read the cell address, the absolute reference rather than the relative reference, is to put a $sign here in front of the F and in front of the 7. Whoops. What did I do? Sorry. And in front of the 7. There. So that cell now says go to F7, not go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It says go to F7. Now, if I copy this cell into this cell, look what it says. It's going to go up to F7. It's not going to say go up 4. It goes to F7. So this is the difference between a relative reference and an absolute reference. With a relative reference, the formula says go up 4 and over 1 and add whatever it is. With an absolute reference, it says go to a specific address. Now what I can do, I can take this, I can copy this all the way down, just as I did in the period column, and enter that. And look, now watch what happens. If I change this to 777, watch what happens to those payments. Because they're all saying grab the value that's in F7. Okay, so let's return this to 999. Now, what you're going to do with this payoff matrix is that you're going to play around with this number right here until you find the right payment. And I'll show you how to find the right payment in just a second. But when you change this one number, all of these change. You don't want to have to be changing all of these. So that is the payment. Now, in our next column, hey, let's make this kind of sexy here. Let's make these bold and we'll underline them. How's that look? That looks pretty good. Now, in this next column, let's put the beginning balance, BEGINNING balance. Beginning balance. Now, that looks a little crowded. Let me expand the width of this column a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up here like this. I'm going to expand the width of that column. Now, to make this real pretty, I'm going to center it. So I'm going to come up here and put it in the center. That would be left justified. That would be right justified. This would be center justified. I don't know if that's a term, center. Okay. And let me put it in bold. Now you see that little balance there. Let me underline that. So here I'll go to U for underline. And there's the beginning balance. So the beginning balance, of course, we haven't paid anything yet. So the beginning balance here is going to be the principal. So let me grab the value that's in the principal right here. Everybody see what I'm doing here? All right. Okay. Now, here we need to go across rather than down because these down here are going to be computed. Now, in the next column here, we want interest charges. Interest charges. Before we do anything else, let's center this, bold, and this underline charges there. Okay. Now, what are going to be the interest charges? The interest charges are going to be based on the unpaid balance. Now, you haven't made any payment yet. This hasn't been made yet. You haven't made any payment yet. Okay. So the interest charge is going to be 1/12 of 8%. Why 1/12? Because this is a monthly charge. 8% is the annual interest rate. The monthly interest rate would be 1/12 of that. And then would you want to take 1/12 of the interest rate and multiply it by the beginning balance. So let's do this. Let's take 1/12 of the interest rate. So we're going to enter a formula here. Enter a formula, and that equal sign indicates to Excel that you're entering a formula. Now, we want to put some parentheses here, so we'll go up here, that 8, and divide that by 12. We're not through yet, because now we have to multiply this value times the beginning balance. And there we are. There will be the interest charges for that period. That's 1/12 the annual interest rate multiplied by the beginning balance. Now, once we know what the interest charges are, let's, instead of calling this interest charges, let's call this finance charges. Finance charges. That's better. That's the way it's written in the instructions. So now let's also call this monthly payment. All right. Now everything is beautiful now, just like it is in the instructions. Now we know that our monthly payment is going to be $999 so far. That's the temporary, that's the holding number. And $65.84 of that is going to be finance charges. So the rest of it would be the payment on the principal. So now we can compute the payment on principal. Okay, that column there needs a little bit of expanding. There we go. That ought to do it. Okay. There you go. Bold, center, and underline. Payment on principal. What's the payment on principal going to be? The payment on principal is going to be the $999, which is the monthly payment, minus the finance charges. So let's enter $999 minus the finance charges. There we are. So we're paying $993 towards our principal with that first payment. $65.84 towards finance charges, $933.16 towards the payment on principal. So now that we know our payment on principal, we can compute our ending balance. Wasn't that cool? Excel automatically centered those, emboldened them, and underlined the word balance. So what would then be our ending balance? Our ending balance would be the beginning balance minus, enter the minus sign there, minus payment on principal. So there would be our ending balance. Now let's do the second row. And once we get the second row done, we can just use the copy command. But before we do that, keep in mind that this formula right here under finance charges says go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then over 2, 7, 8. Now, if I were to copy that to here, this formula into this cell would now say go up 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go up 6, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and over 2, 1, 2. Well, that ain't no good. So Rather than a relative reference, we want this reference to be absolute so that Excel will read that address, F5, not up 6 and over 2. We want it to read F5. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here and see that F5. We're going to put a $sign in front of the F and a $sign in front of the 5. Okay, so now we've made that a relative, an absolute reference. Now, all of these can be relative. That's fine. All of these can be relative references. We need this to be absolute because we want it to catch that rate right there. Now, the beginning balance for period 2 is going to be equal to the ending balance in period 1. So let's make the beginning balance in period 2 equal to the ending balance in period 1. There we go. Now we want the finance charges to be F5 times over 1. That's what this thing is saying. Go to F5 and then multiply that by, divide it by 12 and multiply it by over 1. We want this to say the same thing. F5 divided by 12 multiplied by over 1. So we can copy this right here, just like this. Notice that it says F5 divided by 12 multiplied by over 1, G12. Here, it's reading the F5. Here, right here, is reading the F5. Here, it's reading the over 1. Now, this might sound complicated to you, and indeed, it sounded complicated to me. But once you get a little bit of practice, it's second nature. It's very easy. It just becomes second nature. Trust me on this. Now, the payment on principal, of course, is going to be the monthly payment less the finance charges. Now, this says, this formula in that box says go over 1, 2, 3 and subtract the value that's over 1. This can say the same thing. There we go. 8,942.84 minus 59.62, 939.38. And then the ending balance, of course, is the beginning balance minus the payment on principal. We don't have to write that in. That's exactly what that thing says right there. So let's do that. Now that's 2. Boy, that took a long time. Now we only have 22 more to go, but wait. You see this right here? We can take that entire row, which I did, what I just did, I highlighted that entire row, copied it, and then I'm going to highlight this column right here all the way down to 24. You don't have to go over here. You just do this. And right click. All we need to do is to highlight this row right here, copy it, and paste it all the way down to period 24. Now you don't need to highlight these, it'll do it automatically. Right click and paste, and there you go. Now look, you got some pound signs here. That means that the number is too big. So all you have to do is go up here and expand the width of this column right there, and you can see what that is. Now, look at the ending balance in period 24, minus 14,000 and something dollars. That should be 0. In other words, you should be paying this down, paying it down, paying it down, paying it down, paying it down. And when you get to period 24, after you pay your payment on principal, you should have 0 there. So what we need to do is to come up here and adjust the payment. And keep adjusting it until this is zero. Then we know we have just the right payment, monthly payment. Now, it's a pain in the butt to keep scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down. So instead of scrolling down, let's just make a temporary little cell here where it will show us what's in that bottom, what's in that ending balance for period 24. So we'll just grab that amount and bring it up here. Now, what we want to do, we want to adjust this monthly payment until the ending balance in period 24, there it is right here, until the ending balance in period 24 is zero. When there's a large negative number like this, we know that we are paying too much. So let's reduce the amount that we're paying. Let's say, let's cut it in half, say 500. Notice all of these go to 500 right there. And there's the ending balance in period 24, 1,383. There it is, minus 1,383. Okay, that's still too much. We're still paying too much. Let's try another number, a lower number. Let's say 400. Now the ending balance in period 24 is a positive number, which means there's still some left we haven't paid off. So we need to, increase the monthly payment. So let's increase it to 450. We're getting closer. Actually, we're paying a little too much. Okay, because that balance is negative. Let's try 440. It's a little bit less. Well, that's now we're paying too less. Let's try 445. We're getting closer, but there's still a positive number, which means we're not paying quite as much as we should. Let's try 446. We're getting closer. How about 447? Oh, that's a little too much. How about 446.50? 446.5. Now we're getting somewhere. Not quite enough. Not quite enough because there's still a positive number. Still some left we haven't paid off. How about 446.60? 446.60. Getting closer. Let's try 446.60.